Okay, hello, it's James. I'm making a video about making a head in Blender, like a low poly head. Basically, this is gonna be a video for someone who's like, I'm Blender curious, but how do I get started? I wanna see, this is, since it's still kind of fresh in my mind of all the things that I wanted to know when I started, hopefully this will jumpstart some people. Okay, so we are opening up Blender, new general file. Moving around, there's lots of things that cover that. I'm not going to talk about how to do the thing, but depending on if you have the keyboard that's got the number pad on it or not, it's a little different, but basically like you can get a front view and a side view by hitting 1 and 3. And if you're in the front view, we're making a face here, we're making a head here, so we want some symmetry. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you got these modes up here, object, edit, blah, blah, blah. Mostly we're just going to be using object, edit. And in object mode, you can move things around. In edit mode, you can move parts of things around. So get this back to 0. Basically, you hit tab to switch between the two. So in edit mode, I'm going to use our first tool here, loop cut. Boom, cut this box in half, and then use my selector tool to select these, right click to do a little delete vertices, and now we have a box cut in half. Okay, on the right here, we've got a wrench that's our modifier tab, and the modifier that I use the most is the mirror. And so if you cut it along this green line, which represents the y-axis, that means that you're mirroring it along the x-axis, this red line. So that's what it does by default, but if you accidentally, if it doesn't look right, it's probably because that's wrong. Anyway, so now we've got a cube that if we move anything, it's mirrored like that. Great, so how do we make this look more like a head? More loop cuts. Let's add one right in the middle there, and let's add one in the middle there. And then this is where I will kind of like grab certain stuff and super simple hotkeys. If you hit G, that stands for grab, and now you can move everything you have selected. But if you press any of the axes, like if you press X, it constrains your move to the X axis. So that's a super nice way to just only think about it in one plane. Just say I want to move all the things I selected over in the X. Okay, and I'm going to move these guys, GX, over too, because this kind of feels more like a head. Let's slant that forehead back with GY. Shook. Let's slant this back of the head forward with GY. Probably could have done this one at the same time, GY. But basically, it's like the way that I'm thinking about this is add the fewest number of new cuts so that you have the very little to work with here, but you can make huge proportional changes to the head. Like here I'm going to say GY, move it in a little bit, and then GX to move it in the other way. Another super simple way to do this would be to select everything by hitting A and then right click smooth vertices, and that basically just makes everything you're selecting a little closer to the rounded version of it. You can come into this little menu thing after you do any option, any action, and kind of adjust the settings. But if you'll notice, wow, we just ripped our head in half. That's because there's a setting here I forgot to put on called clipping. And what clipping does, let's undo out of here, we got clipping on. Okay, so now when I say right click smooth vertices, it's clipped all of the stuff at the center. So basically it just means it's like glued at the center. You're not going to accidentally, when clipping is off, you can do stuff like this, and that's not good for what we're doing. So clipping on is a good thing. Smooth things out is an easy way to turn this cube into more of a head shape. All right, so now that we've got this basically rounded cube with mirroring on, here's something that I just figured out the other day that I'm excited about. Hit tab to go back into object mode, and I'm going to add a grease pencil object blank, and then I'm going to say grease pencil. I think we need to go into the new mode, the draw mode. And now we're in draw mode, so we should be able to draw stuff. But if we go up to here and say we want to draw, stroke placement is going to be on the surface of stuff. The offset is going to be, is 0.1 tiny or is it big? 0.1 is pretty big. So let's try 0.01. Also could just be that my cube is super tiny. So maybe, yeah, that's fine. All right, so over here, this little green tab is our grease pencil stuff, I think. I don't know a lot about grease pencil, guys. But I know if I hit minus on this GP layer, it'll delete that garbage. And now I can say new layer. And in the same way, now I can draw on my surface, but in the same way that we added the mirror to the cube, we can also add a mirror to the grease pencil. Basically what I'm getting at here is, let's add an eye, let's add a nose and a mouth, and just say like, hey, how well is this working as a face? Oh, that's cute. Already, because this is, as soon as, I don't know, it's like, I don't want to waste my time making a really complicated face if I can just have a really fun, simple face. So, yeah, that feels pretty cool. Maybe give some eyebrows to give it like a different expression. Okay, yeah. So, now with that kind of mapped in, I'm like, yes, this is working, but we can have a little more fun with it. Let's add some more subdivisions. We'll go back to object mode, select our cube, go into edit mode. I'm going to introduce a new thing. Nope, not yet. I'm going to add another loop cut. I'm going to say loop cut here. No, probably loop cut here. Just so we can get some more info on the eye. We'll do one loop cut here, and yeah, why not here? Okay, so like that just gives us a little bit more. Now we're looking at this front side has some more things to work with. What if we called this vertex kind of the corner of our eye? I'll go GX to bring it over, which means that this should come over. This, let's put that in the center. You know how when you look at a face, kind of like the outside corner of the eye is where the skull turns and goes back. So that's what that's kind of showing. And then that makes this guy kind of like our cheekbone. So we've got that there, and then that's going to come down to our nose. This line probably represents where the cheek comes back in, which means that these guys will be our jaw. Yeah, so like you can see how we're having fun. Whoops. If you just hit G, it'll move things in the plane that you're currently viewing, so it can get a little wonky, but if you're just pushing stuff around, it's usually, yeah, just look at things from different angles. Okay, If you hit GG, it constrains your move to along the edges that exist. That's kind of a nice way to not get lost in space also. All right, a new trick. We're going to go over here and say we want to select edges, not vertices, vertices. I don't ever know which one to call that. And when you select the edge, you can right click and say subdivide, and all that does is make it into two edges. It's kind of like adding a loop cut, but to just one thing. So now if I go back into vertex select, I can create this eye by selecting two vertexes and hitting J to join them. And then we'll go boom, boom, J. And I don't know if I want this to go all the way. Yeah, let's try this. Boom, boom, J. Just because we're trying to be real simple with this. Can this be the bottom of the eye? And this the top of the eye? Okay. Let's make this eye a little simpler, because I think if we go back into edge, if you just hit 1, 2, or 3 above your, this is assuming it's on a number pad keyboard, but hitting 1, 2, or 3 will toggle between your vertex, edge, and face. So if I say I want to select the edges, and I select these two, right click, dissolve edge, that gets rid of them. Okay. Now go back to vertexes, boom, boom, GG, move that up to the mouth. Let's call this, whoops, what did I do there? Let's call this J to join, 2 to grab this, subdivide, go into my vertexes, J to join. That's going to be our mouth. But the one thing that's really missing from this guy now is the nose. So I wonder, we'll do this, subdivide, grab this and GY. What the heck? Oh, you know what? It's just because this is now like an impossible quadrangle. What's it called? You know, it's like it's got technically only has 4 vertices, but obviously you can't make a 4-pointed plane that does that. So we're gonna have to add something else. What if we go into edge, subdivide this, 1, join that. Oh yeah, already looking better. Then we gotta join that. There we go. And then, you know, like the side of the nose comes down to the corner of the mouth like that, for that kind of like, you know, the old person line that happens there. Or when you smile, you get that yeah, that thing. Okay, that's feeling good. And then maybe we connect these two, because that way we can get this happening in the cheek. So yeah, there's just like these interesting, this is what I like about the low poly thing, is can I go into side view and hit GY to make a little mouth. GZ to bring that up. Maybe GZ bring this up. What could I, maybe GZ bring the nose down. All right, we're getting close. I feel like, so down here, there's not enough, yeah, like pretty much the jaw is just like a little cylinder, so I'm checking to see that we've got some curvature going on with this jaw. That looks good. And then how's the eye feeling? I could get that up and down, but like when you're looking at the side, okay, this GY, I can make that eye a little bit more like that. Okay, we got to finish off this forehead. What can we do with the forehead? Let's join these guys here, because you're thinking about like how the form turns, and that just feels like if this gets a little more rounded like that, then you're gonna want an extra, oops, J, yeah, just something there to define that. Oops, I just pressed something. Oh, this is a good time to save. Command S, because it does a really bad job of, there's no like auto save in Blender, so you can lose a lot. I'll call this head. You can lose a lot accidentally. All right, so do we just finish that off with the thing there? That feels kind of weird that the forehead would like dive in like that. Let's join. Oh yeah, so like I'm just like seeing this weird, like I love these triangles because now GY, bring that out a little bit. It's like some geodesic stuff. It's like you can make this really strong feeling thing just out of, you see this boom, 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 boom. Hexagon sliced up like a pizza is what's making this forehead shape, and then we've got a boom, 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 boom. Oops. Another hexagon right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pentagon right there. And then this is, I don't know. It's like how, yeah. People talk about rectangles, what's it called, quads being like the awesome thing, but I think that triangles, especially in this low poly look, is super nice for having your geometry go with the flow of how these things are actually constructed. All right, so we've spent a lot of time on the face, but we've kind of ignored the rest of the head. So if you hit 5 on your numpad, that gives you an orthographic view, you know, so that the camera doesn't have any sort of fisheye when you get closer, which I find is a very helpful way to, you know, check some of these. Like, look at how fat this head is when you look at it like that. So I can probably bring this in a lot. Bring this in. And this is a comfortable way for me to work, to just like kind of finesse one view like this, and then I will, let's see, bring these down, and then hit 3 to go on the side view and say, oh, okay, let's grab these, let's grab these. Okay, what's going on with the bottom here? So head, we gotta get that sharp chin kind of thing going on, but these guys will be going up. Maybe that means that that is more like this. Can make this a little more rounded. Anyway, you get the idea. It's just, it's basically sculpting, but because you have such little information to sculpt, you can just kind of peck away at it like this. How's that peak of the head feeling? Is that weird? Maybe. All right, now I'm just playing. This is, you get the idea. You could play with this forever. I don't know if I'm happy with that, but it's good enough for who it's for. So we just make this whole new trick, X-ray mode. Boop. Now I can select everything here pretty easily without having to like actually see it. Go into my side view, GY, and just change that head a little bit. Okay. Back out of X-ray mode, back into object mode. I'll grab my grease pencil, delete this layer, add a new layer. Should be, oops, we're not in draw mode. Draw mode. Okay, so again, we're just like using this geometry that we made. We're saying, what's our guy look like now? Yeah, that's cool. Object mode. That's kind of weird. Maybe this forehead should be bigger. GZ. Anyway, I'm not gonna play around. A neck. Let's give it a neck. Okay. I'm going to. Can I select these three and say subdivide? Oh, perfect. All right. So then these two, I'm gonna also subdivide. And now I have GX to bring GX. Make this a little more rounded, like a neck. G to slide that along there. I'm gonna right click, delete that. So now I have this doodad, and it's not perfect, but I think if I grab 1, 2, 3, GX it out, that's good enough for who it's for. Now, selecting all of them. New tool. If you hit E, that extrudes stuff. Ooh, what's going on there? And if you hit EZ, that just extrudes things along the Z axis. So that's great. Now I'm like, oh, I've got this jaggedy neck bottom. So if I say S to scale, Z along the Z axis 0, return. That is a nice way to do that. Now if I select, oops, all of this and all of this, all the neck doodads, and I hit S to scale, I can make that look more like a neck. Maybe GZ to bring it down a little bit. R to rotate it. Is that important? No. But maybe GY to bring it forward. I don't know. But you get the idea. Okay, so now we've got a head with a neck. Do we add an ear? Do we add an ear? I think that's important. So we're going to grab this, say extrude. Now I've got an ear. Maybe do it like that so that the ear, I don't know guys, this is creepy, but this is what happens when you don't do a design first. Okay, I think that we're feeling good. This feels, we can make this just a little bit more round, right? And now I've got this awkward, maybe we needed another subdivide, dissolve, join, because now, oh yeah, now when we pull this back, all right, so we got this weird, we got this like triangle pattern going on. I like that. Anyway, that's as fancy as we're gonna get. Ah, it's still. Why is that? Why? Why? Cool. Make this a little less elvish. Maybe bring these up a little bit. You can see this is the part that you just get lost in, because you can just keep tweaking away. Like now, now that I added this, there's a weird five edged thing that maybe we need to add a loop, oops, to connect that. But that's now it's getting too complicated. Because now I'm like, oh, I could probably make that a little smoother. Make that a little smoother. Done. Call it done. All right. We're gonna turn off the grease pencil. Great. Now we've got a head. Let's see if this. Yeah. Now we've got a head. It is pretty chunky, but that's fun. And now we're going to do some fun stuff to it. We're gonna quickly give it some light. So if you go into this far right thing, you can see that that light that was in our scene, this guy, you can move it around just like an object. One thing that I like to do is change it into a sun, and you're gonna have to move the strength down to 1, which is more like what a default sun would be. But let's see, is that gonna, just because I like how straight and parallel the sunlight is, you know, it's how a sun works. It's so far away that by the time it gets to your object, and if I say R to rotate, Z around the Z axis, that's what where I can play with my angle. It's a little hard to see, but basically, okay, 7 to go into the top view, RZ can hit that right at the 45, and when I'm in front, that's kind of, maybe I can RY. So basically, I'm hitting it at 45, 45, roughly. And it looks a little chunky and gross, but real fast. We'll go into, what's this called? Render properties, shadows. You can basically like just increase the awesomeness of the shadows here. High bit depth sounds nice, soft shadows sounds nice. And then also under the light properties, let's change this angle to 0, because that will give us, I mean, it's still kind of garbage. This is what happens when you have very low poly, is that like the shadows sometimes don't look as good. But if I just scale this thing up, that's looking better. And because the sun is so far away anyway, even though my head's now in my sun, okay, so now it's just a bit of, you know, how do I light this head the most attractive way? It's the way that this nose shadow is doing that thing. Rotate Y. Feels a little like sinister. I don't know, it just makes him look a little angrier than he needs to be. Rotate Z. Maybe I'll just make that a little less intense. Rotate Y. Rotate Z. Okay, yeah, that's nice, soft, maybe. Whatever. And then, you know, once you got some light on it, you might say, okay, maybe I need to change some stuff. GY. Okay, so that's nice and lit. So the fastest way to unwrap this is to just select, you're in face selection mode, hit A to select everything, right click, unwrap, unwrap. And since we started with a cube, I think it's just gonna like try to figure this out as a cube. Let's go to UV editing. This is what it popped out. It's this goofy looking pawn head, and I can be in island select mode and rotate this so that we're oriented, move it over. It's the same things like G to move, S to scale, R to rotate. But I want some more accurate, thing going on for the face. So I'm gonna go back to here, select all the, not that guy, all the faces, and right click, and instead of unwrapping, I'm just gonna say project from view, and it projects just the faces that I've selected. I can move this over, scale it to the size of my thing, and now when I hit A to select everything, you see it's ripped off the face and put it over here. This is just so I know, like, this is easier to look at for me because it matches the geometry better. And now I'm going to say I want hard edges for the eyes and the mouth. So, I don't know how you would, maybe if I select these in here and then G, move them over. Yeah, so now got an eye here, got a mouth here, got an ear here. And everything else I'll just kind of fake, who cares. But this will kind of be my hairline up top, so that's a nice hard edge. Then the ear I know is basically these two, so I can kind of, well, I guess I don't even need to paint the ear. Anyway, I'll island mode, scale G, move it over, and this, I don't know, like, it is what it is. This is just to show you what's going on. But if you say UV, export UV layout, let's go to the desktop. We'll call this head uv.png, export. Okay, so here's our UV PNG I opened up in Photoshop. It's got that alpha background, and it's kind of like semi-opaque, where you can see what you're doing. So I'm going to grab my pencil tool, and what's the color that's most like, find a nice, just kind of like, option delete to fill the whole layer. That seems like that could be a skin tone. And now I'll usually, make something that's a little more red, a little darker. That's gonna be his rosy lips. And I'm going to give him some kind of bloodshot pink eyes because he's been on the computer way too long. Let's see. While I'm here, I love the non-anti-aliased pencil tool because even at this super chunky, you can select a color on the same layer and you've got like the exact, there's none of that feathering that happens. So I can just grab this and say, make it a little less saturated, a little darker, I don't know. Now I'm going to make a new layer for the eye just because what if I want to bump it around? I'm going to use my tool, my pencil tool, to just make a, there we go. Can I make it even more just What if it's smaller? I don't know. No, I feel like, okay, sure. We don't care. We're not trying to make something perfect. We're just trying to show you how it works. I remember on that first Space Explorers, I gave the character that crazy, like red band across her face, and lots of people were like, what the shit? Is she like, does she have warp paint on or something? And all I was trying to do is like a kind of like a simplified version of what happens naturally in our faces, is that there's like more blood cells happening around the cheeks, and you know, if you think about it, like your forehead has like skin and bone, but your cheeks have a lot of muscle going on there, so there's more blood beneath the skin, and that gives it a slightly more red feel. And so that's going to kind of creep over to here too. We're going to see that it's very off registered, but there's nothing we can do. And I'm going to filter, Gaussian blur this just to fuzz it up. But anyway, that's just, it just adds a little bit of movement to this head. I don't know. I'll take the saturation down because we're not trying to, is that, no, that's weird. And now the hair, let's just give him some black hair for the sake of keeping things simple, graphic. We know that this is where the ear is, so I can just kind of like, I mean, this stuff's all going to get super distorted, but then the hairline's going to pick up right below the ear and come all the way to the back of the neck. Huh. So, any other interesting things? Oh, eyebrows. We got to add eyebrows. He's going to have like a unibrow, and the eyebrows just going to come like that. Okay. So you turn off the UV layer and you've got this trendy contemporary art here, and I'm going to save that as head texture. I feel like I've named like 9 things head texture already. I'm going to call this face paint, and it's going to be a JPEG, and it's going to be on the desktop, and we will go back to Blender. Okay, shading tab. I'm in my, what's it called? What is this called? I'm in my viewport shading view of things. By default, it's got this material. It's just got this kind of gray thing going on with the principled BSDF. But if I say add a texture that is an image texture, and make the color of the image texture the base color of our thing, and then I'm going to open up the desktop, face paint, and boom, we get our first look at this weirdo guy that looks like he's, what is going on here? It's like that's yeah, there's our thing. All right, we'll go back to layout, and actually, let's see. One thing that I'm going to quick play around with here is that we want to, I'll just turn down this like funny stuff. No specular, because yeah, we're just trying to get a nice flat look. Check this out. Right click, shade smooth. And what this does is totally fucks up the ear. That's so weird. But you know, it gets rid of those hard polygons that are happening. And I think, so you're in vertex tab, you go to normals, auto smooth, and then you can set the kind of like, basically if there's an angle that's more than 26 degrees, it's going to be sharp, and if it's less than 26 degrees, it's going to be smooth. That's a pretty fast way to kind of do that, make that more natural. But throw it all the way up to 180 and you got everything smooth. And now go into edit, edge mode, and start to pick out the edges that you want to be hard. So I'm like, okay, the lips, the eyes, the under of the nose. I know that the ear had a weird shadow going on, and then I want this chin to be nice and strong. I want the edge of the neck hitting the head to be sharp. So right click, mark sharp. And now when we tab out of this, you can see it's not smoothing those edges. Wonder if I can add something here too. Oh yeah, to give it that kind of like under shadow thing. So now that I've got a texture on here, I'm like, oh, I'd love to change some proportions about this dude. Can we just move the mouth and nose down? Can we move the ear down? Can we scale the ear to be a little smaller? Let's make the top of the head a little taller. Sure. Huh. But now, yeah. Ha! What's going on back here, guys? Somehow this got a little funky. But anyway, so it's fun to put the texture on and then be able to start playing around again with the proportions, because all of a sudden the proportions make themselves more clear once you've got some expressions starting to happen here. Let's see if I can turn this stuff off. Wow, what a lumpy head guy. Another easy way to change things up in the world tab, world properties, you can adjust this color. So maybe you don't want it to be, this kind of influences the shadow color as well as the background color. So like, you know, if you wanted to, I don't know, give it this, something other than just like a pure gray, that's an easy way to do that. And then, you know, if you want to change, without changing the color of the texture, you can change the color of your light. You know, make it darker or lighter. That's where your strength can get bumped up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's your introduction to making low poly heads in Blender.